Okay, we are live now. So actually, we've been live for about 25 seconds. So, and there's a question already from Kunal. Where are you guys? Here we are, Kunal. So, thanks for waiting patiently. And but today's episode is actually not a very light-hearted one. It's prompted. The subject today is prompted by a friend of mine who kind of died in a car crash on Sunday, and in a bike crash on Sunday. And it gets you thinking because there's a big community of bikers, and Indian roads being what they are, they're fairly dangerous. But also some of these bikes that we have are performance bikes. Some of these are meant to be actually raced on a track, and not the ones that Shane and I ride, which are adventure bikes. They're meant to go off trail and do a bit of highway and all that. But it's always a scary proposition. And in India, everyone who rides motorcycles or has ridden motorcycles will be familiar with the proposition of family members trying to dissuade them and say, hey, don't ride motorcycles, it's really dangerous and things like that. And typically when they get married, they're forced to give up the bike and things like that. So that's the kind of scenario it is. And when something, I think you always know about the dangers, but when it comes home so close, it's somebody and he was an expert rider who had ridden for many years and multiple bikes, and he used to race on the track. So his skills were kind of obviously pretty good, but it takes one mistake, or it takes somebody else making one mistake, and the repercussions can be fairly dangerous. Indian roads themselves are dangerous, but compared to a car. So just at the outset, Shane, you are also an expert rider who's been riding for many years, and I know that you particularly are very against speeding. I remember mentioning to you that I'd taken a bike out over 120 or 140 or something on the highway, and you were like, that's just too fast, right? And that's something...
150, 160 you were saying. You basically said that on long stretches of highway where you can see everything, both sides, why can't you ride at 150, 160, which most bikers with big bikes I know do that. They see an open stretch, no traffic, and it's they can see for a long distance. They ride at 160, 170, 180, full speed, sometimes 200. Why would you want to do that? I don't understand that at all. Because speed is not what bikes, as far as I'm concerned, is not about speed at all. It's about the corners. It's about getting the corners correct. It's the sensation you get when you go through a series of corners, which is what I like about bikes, not the speed of the bike at all. That doesn't interest me at all. So I don't know why, and especially if you're going from A to B if you're doing long distances, this basically, especially if you're doing it alone, which you do a lot alone, meaning you have a pillion but you're still alone, there's nobody else to help you here. So why would you take risks? Like even if it's like the Agra Delhi highway, which the speed limit is 120, I think people do 200 on it, and it's easy to do 200, and you might think it's safe, but I don't think. What is the point of it? I don't understand. You'll get to where you're going maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes earlier, but for what? What reason? What's the point of it? And I don't get that thrill of that high speed thrill. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, but I think there's especially, and you saw some of the statistics that were just put up, that it's clearly a very high number of people that die.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so there's almost in 2017 there were almost 50,000 deaths in two-wheeler accidents, and 33% of the total deaths. So I assume that's also high because there's a large number of two-wheelers in India. But if you imagine pedestrians and everything else, all other road transport, then two-wheelers clearly account for a lot of deaths. And so, but I think that can be put in two different categories. One is that inherently two-wheelers are actually kind of dangerous, because if you have an accident, unlike a car, you don't, you fall down. I mean, you lose your balance, and that's one of the biggest problems, right? In India, the thing is that traffic being, going at a certain speed, if you hit a pothole and you fall down, I mean, there's somebody behind you, then that becomes an additional danger. And so that's clearly one of the problems. But I think we have to separate this into two categories. One is the regular kind of commuter bikes that a lot of people use, where they are typically without helmets. And those are not performance bikes, they're commuter bikes. They typically,
even if they have helmets, they're not strapped on, or they have no safety testing done on them. Cheap
Right.
helmets which are of no use.
yes. So exactly. So not, the protective gear is not up to the mark, and especially for, you'll see very often even in the cities where there is some enforcement of the law, that you'll see the riders wearing a helmet, but the pillion is not, and as if they're invincible. So that's one category, and clearly that makes up for a huge number of accidents and deaths. Huge number of deaths. I mean, accidents obviously are what they are, and so clearly people don't realize that it's very easy for a fatality to happen when you're not wearing a helmet, because even if you fall down at 20 kilometers an hour and you hit your head from that height, you could actually have a serious injury or death. So that's one category, but we are clearly talking about another category of recreational bikers that typically have much better bikes, and typically again, so I know that my friend who actually tragically died was very particular about gear, right? And I think, let me address this on the onset, right? I mean, a lot of riders feel because they have all this fantastic gear that's supposed to be all this cutting edge technology and modern, that it will protect them no matter what. And I think that's a fallacy, right? What do you say about that?
No, it's you're just protecting yourself as best as you can, and a good helmet will definitely protect you as long as. So there are many. There's so much you can say about protective gear, but the thing is that you should buy the best gear you can, and you should wear it all the time. There's no doubt about that. Just because you might die even though you're wearing it doesn't mean you don't wear it. And it gives you a better chance of living, as well as not having injuries like road rash, which is not life threatening at all, but it's extremely painful, and it takes a long time.
Road rash can be, by the way, I discovered this, I don't know who told me this, but road rash can cause bone infections. And because that might actually become life threatening, right? We tend to overestimate the power of modern medicine, and while it is fantastic if you can get to it in time and all that, we do need to realize that medicine can only do so much, and there are infections which are, I think the COVID situation has made everyone realize that there are limits to modern medicine. And I think but I agree. So again, I'm just, sorry I interrupted you, but one thing I want to make clear, yes, you have to wear gear all the time, but it doesn't make you invincible. It doesn't make you Batman. It can only protect you to a certain degree. And if you, impact something hard enough, or you fall off the bike and there's an impact at a strange angle, it can always be fatal.
My favorite thing, which I heard long ago, was the best safety device that you have is your right wrist. You do this, and you're more likely to die. You do this, less likely to die. This is your throttle hand. It's your throttle. How faster you go, then it goes up exponentially. Yeah? So if you're doing 60, you can stop in, like, say 30 feet. You're doing just 80, just 10 20 kilometers more, it'll go to 100 feet. Yeah, and you're doing 100, it'll go to 200 feet. That's the kind of, it's crazy. So speed is a killer. There is no doubt about it, especially in India. Not saying that this person was speeding, obviously. I don't know. I have no clue about what happened. But speed is the number one. You stick within your speed limits, the speed limits of the place where you're riding at, within reason, and your own abilities. Yeah, that's the best way to make sure. And of course, you see where you're riding. If you're riding in a crowded area, you don't speed. Yeah, I mean, you don't even do the speed limit. You go lower than the speed limit.
Yeah, I think speed limits are, a different thing entirely. So in fact, it's so strange. The other day I was just doing a motor vlog for Bikebabble, which I later sent you, and it's ironical that I was referring to my friend and talking about how he recommended a Honda to me. And then also, while I was doing this motor vlog, which kind of takes up a little bit of your mind space, and a commuter bike went past. And I looked at him and I was like, okay, I'm on an Africa Twin, and there's a commuter bike which is like kind of overtaking me, and it's like, but my immediate reaction, fortunately, was that never ride with your ego, right? Because it doesn't matter if he's going faster. I mean, it's his risk to take. And just because you have a powerful bike with a powerful engine doesn't mean that you should be faster than everyone else, etc. You're enjoying the engine for a different reason, like you said. I think that is a huge factor for riders though. So let's talk about, okay, Shane, we all know I'm reasonably careful as a rider, reasonably, right? I won't say I'm the most expert rider. I'm reasonably careful in my driving and my riding in general. I'm aware of the risks, and I think a lot of people have made me very conscious of the risks because I've chosen to ride a motorcycle against, many people's advice and wishes, friends, well wishers, all of that. But there are a lot of riders in our community, in the riding community, that kind of do this about, they have an ego, they won't let other people pass, they'll be chasing cars, they'll be looking at, hey, I have a Ninja, or I have a very powerful bike, and therefore they'll be riding fast. I mean, how does one control these impulses?
That's your personal, it's your personality, basically. And I think the younger you are, the more susceptible you are to that. Older you get, less likely you are to have that impulse. So there's age, there's your personality, which helps, both which would help. But then sometimes but speed is all boys talk about. When boys is the correct word for it, not men. Boys are it's the boys who talk about speed, top speed. I touch 120 or 220 or 250. The fastest I've ever been on a bike is 180 kilometers an hour on the Budh International Circuit at the end of the straight. When you come under that board on the Budh Ready Circuit, that's the fastest I've ever been on a bike. Why? I mean, you think I can't go at 220, which is the top speed of the Triumph? I can. I could have done it on the Budh circuit, but it doesn't interest me. 220, so what? What interests me is how fast you can take the corners, yeah. That is what interests me, not how fast you can go on. Like I keep saying, you put a monkey on a bike, he'll twist it to the stop and he'll go as fast as the bike can go in a straight line. Any monkey can ride a bike in a straight line fast, yeah. Anybody, monkey, like I keep saying. It's the other bits which are difficult, which is to be able to do that is what you should be trying to do, not going fast in a straight line. Yeah.
I remember you saying, yeah, exactly. I mean, using this phrase, saying that even a monkey, if he sits on a motorcycle, can pull the throttle. So speed is one thing, and I think, and I think too many people make too much of that. But the thing is that it's a lot of people, I think, take up biking, or once they take up biking, get this whole image of what biking is all about, and a lot of it has to do with adrenaline and speed, and those are exactly the things that can get you killed, right? And again, I mean, there are expert riders who know how to ride and they're within their limits, and sometimes things are beyond their control, or they misjudge, right? And it takes one mistake, right? It takes one mistake, and so you're on a highway, you're not on the track. On the track, things are designed to keep you safe should you fall. There are rubber tires, and there's the tracks are designed such that you'll kind of slide and slip off the track, and and we've seen a lot of people. I think MotoGP's contributed to this whole thing of motorcyclists are invincible, because you see them sliding off the track and having massive crashes and surviving everything. But you have to realize that there's millions of dollars of technology and teams and like things like that going, and it's their career, right? It's like being a dangerous sports person. So it has nothing to do with riding in real life, especially when you're riding in traffic. You're not only risking your own life, but that of other people. But so Shane, that's what brings me to this thing, right? I mean, we need to, what is the balance? Because at the end of the day, this is recreational riding. I know I do it for the traveling. I like it for the, kind of adventure traveling. You're taking some beautiful roads. It's a different feeling compared to being in a vehicle, like an enclosed vehicle, like a car or something. Yeah. And of course, you enjoy the curves, you enjoy everything. It's closer to kind of the elements when you're riding. And, coming back to 4 wheels move the body and 2 wheels move the soul. I mean, that kind of. So how do you enjoy that and balance that with all this very macabre and, very somber kind of aspects of riding, which is that it's fairly dangerous? I mean, so what are your, 2 or 3 recommendations for people who would want to continue to ride?
What should they do? So basically, 2 or 3 things. One is that you're like I said last time or the time before, you're the bottom of the food chain. You are nobody. Okay, forget pedestrians and cyclists, but above that is your motorcyclist, 2-wheeler. You're nobody on Indian roads or any roads anywhere actually. You're zero. So you stop for every car, you stop for everything. You make sure that you stop. You don't expect anybody else to stop for you, ever. Ever. And then if you are on an open road, on a highway or whatever, most cars nowadays are doing about 90, 100, at least 100. Most cars are doing 100. So you do 120. So basically, then you're passing those cars at a speed of 20. Not if you're doing 160, then you're passing them at 60 kilometers an hour. So it's you're not giving them chance to. Like yesterday, I was on a Zoom call with a friend who told me he was coming back from Greater Noida. In his car, he was doing 100 in his car, on a very good highway, and he saw these lights behind him on a Sunday, which were growing at a crazy pace. And he said, "Man, I was so scared. I was sitting in the middle of the highway. I didn't want to move an inch this side or that side, and these guys went past him on both sides. Must have been doing 200 kilometers an hour at least." So he said, if I had not been aware of them, I wasn't looking in my mirror, and I just changed my lane, this guy, I would have hit one of them. There would have been nothing left of his car, him, as well as the guy, because the closing speed would have been 100 kilometers an hour. So don't I would say don't ride more than 20 kilometers an hour faster than the people around you, the fastest car around you. That is
Right at the traffic speed.
yeah,
Right
a little
at the
bit
traffic
faster, always a little faster. Always don't be together with a car or a bus or anything. Just overtake
Yeah.
everything quickly, 10 kilometers an hour, 20 an hour.
I think we should take. Maybe this is an idea, and really, I'm pretty serious about this. I will take up this initiative if it helps. I know there's a lot of videos on the internet about safe riding, but if you're willing to kind of get some people together who are expert riders, I'd be willing to kind of put out the platform, and we should do a series of videos about safe riding in India, and like things like which people, it's not general knowledge, like it's supposed to be general knowledge, but not a lot of people are aware, especially a lot of young riders, like we spoke, like not riding in the death zone, right? Not riding in the death zone, not staying too long there, how to overtake, when to overtake. So I think if we do a series of videos on that, maybe and put it out there so it's accessible to everyone who plans to get into riding, it might actually be something fairly useful for them. But so that's one thing. I agree. So you're saying that you should not ride more than 20 kilometers faster than the rest of the traffic. Of course, don't ride with your ego. Don't try and just because somebody passes you because he's on a Hero Honda Splendor or something, he's going at 120, 130. I remember once I was coming back from Pune, and there was this guy on a Pulsar, and he must have been doing 160, and you could hear the engine like screaming for its life. And clearly when they see bikes like the Africa Twin or the Tiger, when they see these fancy bikes, there's a lot of the local kids that want to try and race you. That happens all the time. So I think all riders are familiar with that phenomenon, and very often I've seen some people respond because their bikes have the power to just like zoom past, right? But then the other guy starts taking risks at some level. So I think you've got to be, I remember Vijay Parmar also saying this in our workshop, is you've got to be the bigger person. Just let them go. Don't worry about it. You have a long journey, you have a long life. You want to enjoy those things rather than get stuck. What else would you think is a very important factor?
There are many things like in India specifically where if you are riding behind a car or a bus, which you're forced to do very often, especially like in the hills and all, you ride in the wheel tracks of the bus or the car instead of in the middle, because there are potholes, so the guy will avoid the potholes. He'll not. So those kind of things, and there are things like rocks in the middle of, especially in the hills, rocks and on the road. So he will not go over the rock with his wheels. So that's one thing. Then while if you see a bus stopped on the side of the road, you make sure, while you're following a bus, make sure that you can see if you're going fast enough, 100 or so. Can see underneath the bus a little bit. Yeah, you can, those kind of things. Then when the bus is stopped, you see that nobody is passing from in front. A lot of these things you find out as you ride a lot. You don't have to ride a lot. Within a year of riding, if you ride outside the cities, you will learn all of this easily, very quickly. But it's a good idea.
we have a good question about protective gear, and we'll get to that. But this is I think that's a mistaken idea that just because people ride for a year or two, that they learn all these safety ideas about safety. Actually, they don't, and I think it's very important. I think I put it out as an idea, but maybe if we can spend a little bit of time over the next 6 months developing these videos, it would be great. We should look at some 10-20 principles of riding and put it out there so that people can access. I'm sure a lot of stuff is there on YouTube, but just to put it in an organized fashion, particularly for India, because Indian riding conditions are so different, right? Compared to the US. There'll be some universal principles, that's fine. Maybe we should cover the ones that pertain to India. So we'll go over some of them. I think we have limited time, but so another aspect is, of course, I mean, we have said that it's not going to make you Superman to wear all the gear, but safe gear does save you in many places, right? From injury, from a lot of kind of dangerous injuries that could result in fatalities and stuff like that. Helmets, of course, being topmost. And I remember in an earlier broadcast you had said, so we won't go over that again, is that buy the most expensive helmet you can afford. Buy a cheaper bike, but buy a really expensive helmet. And so that's something I stand by, and I think it's like it's a home truth that every biker should budget like 50 grand for a helmet before they even attempt to buy a motorcycle of even a KTM 390. It might seem counterintuitive, but young guys, please suck it up, because it's your whole life ahead of you. Older people have fewer years left, so actually you have more to protect, more years to protect. So think of it like that. But to answer
last years.
Yeah, to answer Priya's question, what are some of the best brands? I mean, you want to take a shot?
That's a very complicated question, but there are Indian brands and there are foreign brands. The foreign brands are like so expensive that it's crazy. But then I would say for off-road, Climb is it's an American brand. Climb, Alpine Stars, everybody knows, but Alpine Stars has a huge range of very cheap to very expensive. Climb makes very good gear. All their gear is very good, but that's basically mostly for dual purpose or off-road. But there are Indian brands also now coming up, like Rhinox. There is about 3-4 of them. I have never used any of their like jackets or pants or anything like that, but I've used their bags, which are good. But I don't know why we don't use the Indian brands, because they use the same, they might be using Cordura, 1000D Cordura or whatever. So they use the same stuff.
I'll tell you why I don't. It's not for a fashion statement, or it's not for any other reason, but comfort. I think it's the same reason that I choose certain brands to wear, because they're more comfortable on your skin, and some of them do use better technology at some level, right? I mean, I know that's permeating into the Indian brands, and they're starting to get better and better, but some of them feel heavy and they feel a little bit and I think comfort is another aspect of riding. You should never ride when you're extremely uncomfortable or in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry to get anywhere. Again, I have another friend who's who doesn't believe in riding bikes because he thinks it's too dangerous, but even in his car, we sometimes get upset with him because he's driving at like 30 kilometers an hour, and in the city I'm talking about. But he's like, I'm in no hurry to get anywhere. I just 10 minutes kind of saving 10 minutes is not important. I'll knock somebody over, or somebody will kind of run into me or whatever it is. So it's a really dangerous thing to do. So just like take your own time in getting from place to place. I know these things sound difficult to do over a lifetime, but really, what are you going to lose? Like in your entire lifetime of driving, you'll lose like 30 hours, and that's not even one trip to the hospital, right? So I think it's completely worth it. So one, don't drive in a hurry. Don't ride in a hurry. Don't ride when you're extremely uncomfortable. For example, you're not wearing proper gear and you're driving in cold rain or something like that, and you want to just get to the next stop and you're in a bit of a hurry. Again, we'll come to slightly more difficult conditions later on. But one of the things that Priya also asked as a follow-up question is, what are the top 5 safety gear? So helmet, clearly number 1. What would be the other 4?
Yeah. So helmet is number 1. Then you have a jacket, a padded jacket like with armor, knees, elbows, shoulder, back protector. Some of them, I have never worn a chest protector, but that's a good idea. Then you have pants with, you can have jeans also, but they are lined with Kevlar. And then you have your knee pads or knee braces or whatever. And then you have your boots, which could be many kinds of boots. You know, tall boots, off-road boots, racing boots. So basically, you wear everything. Then, of course, last thing is your gloves. That's it.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
basically, you're
So-
covered head to foot.
Okay, and there's another question. So I know the answer to this is it's not kind of typically done when you're riding on the road. But what about a neck brace, right? And this is, do you wear a neck brace? Do you wear a neck brace when you go off-roading?
No, I don't.
No, I would like to. Neck brace and a knee brace is what I need to buy next. Neck brace is, most people don't use it for the road, but I have seen some people using it on the road. You have road focused neck braces as well. The road, the MotoGP guys don't wear it because they wear these Tech Air, Alpine Stars Tech Air technology, which when you fall, it inflates. It's like a air vest.
Yeah.
It's like a vest. So it inflates enough for your neck not to be able to go back up or down. So that's why they don't wear it in MotoGP. They don't need to. It's already there.
Right.
But for
Right.
off-road is when you would normally wear a neck brace. Yeah.
So what would you say there are lots of details. I think we should do a follow-up and kind of go into some details. We'll do another podcast later in this week when we are free, because we're coming to an end of this one.
Yeah.
But what would you say to people? I mean, so in the wake of when things happen like this, when you hear about somebody kind of that you know fairly well, who's a friend who kind of suffers this kind of fate, and they've been an expert rider, and they kind of a lot of people depend on them for information, etc. And then suddenly this happens, then there's a lot of nervousness. What did you say to people who want to still continue to ride? I mean, do you think the risks are very high, or they are not very different if you take precautions from what regular traffic rates are in India? What's your reading of the situation? And so if somebody is planning to get into riding, okay, and this is hand to heart kind of advice, would you tell him don't ride? Like if if it's not important to you, just avoid it? Or would you say no, ride, it's okay as long as you follow all precautions? What's your thoughts?
Of course, ride. Of course, definitely, man. But take all the precautions, all the safety gear, and then make sure you don't ride too fast. Ride according to the conditions of where you are. But you should ride, yeah. And these bikes that we buy, even the KTM 390, have such amazing tires, amazing brakes. They are like so much better than the cars. They can stop so much faster. They can accelerate so much quicker, which gets you out of trouble. So a bike can actually be much safer unless somebody else makes a mistake and hits you, or you miscalculate and hit something. So I don't know. I would never tell anybody not to. I have had many people, many partners tell me to tell their partner not
Tell
to
us
buy,
that story.
tell them not to buy this bike or not to buy any bike or not to do this. And I've always told them, you're crazy. They have to ride. Yeah, they should be able to ride. Why not? How can you not? Because you can get hit by a car crossing the road tomorrow, like everybody says, and die.
Like I would recommend to people that don't go, and if you're fond of riding, start gradually. Start with bikes that have a little bit of power that can excite you, but not enough to kind of get you into a lot of trouble. And there's a lot of, so for example, there are bikes like the S1000RR, and they're 200 horsepower, and the H2X or whatever it is, and there's the Kawasaki bikes. I mean, they're meant for the racetrack, and people are, it's very uncomfortable on Indian roads to ride. Your knees are, kind of bent, and your feet are like near your, ears or something. And it's really meant to be on the racetrack, because there's suspension systems and everything set up for like flat tracks, right? And not flat tracks, I mean, they're for the racetrack. And a lot of people get them here. So I think the recommendation would be get a practical bike that has the right amount of, for example, if you hit a pothole, like in India, one of the problems is, don't ride in the dark. That's another important thing you told me, right? Which I've been following as far as I can. Don't ever ride in the dark because you can come across, things that you don't have visibility. Second thing is, don't ride all these crazy bikes which are meant for the racetrack. Take them only to the track. They should not really be street legal. They should be legal only for the racetrack. And then get bikes that are within your riding ability that can excite you, and then go upgrade. And the third thing is get bikes that are practical for Indian conditions. So adventure bikes that way are not bad, because they, if you come across a pothole, suddenly the big wheels and all that are relatively stable. So, again, very quickly, I've just encapsulated that. I'm sure you have a lot to add to that. But tell me some of the ways in which, if you are riding fine, if we follow your advice, right? So we're riding within our limits. We are very conscious, very attention focused, not thinking about something, not listening to music, nothing. All attention on the road, because you're not traffic that is that has that. You can't. It's not like you're enclosed in a car with an airbag and stuff like that. So you have to be very careful when you're riding. When you're riding, it's like a sport, right? So you have to focus. I mean, if your attention goes away, and it's really dangerous for a motorcycle rider as opposed to a driver. But what are the things that can happen even if you do everything right? What are some of the typical things that you have to watch out for in Indian roads that others can do to you?
So many things, yeah. Cars coming out from the side lanes without stopping, which is nobody stops. They will not stop. They will come out even though you're coming at whatever speed you're coming. They will still come out in front of you. They will not stop at red lights. Dogs crossing the street, human beings crossing the street without looking, with things on their head. Women in these villages with heavy loads on their head, they don't look like this. Just cross the road. These are the things everybody knows. Anybody who rides or even doesn't ride, has ever sat in a car, has seen this. Everybody knows these things, but so basically you have to keep reminding yourself about these things, and say that you're not invincible. Basically, that's it.
Right. We have a couple of questions after which we'll finish. What are the lights bikers should use for early morning rides? Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of the times when you go on adventure rides, you tend to set off really early and it's still dark before sunrise. So there are lots of brands available. I think Denali's are one of the good ones that I think both of Shane and I use. They're pretty good. There's lots of lights. The one issue is, Shane, that a lot of cops start harassing you if you use these lights, right? It depends which state you are in, but I guess you take that chance rather than risk an accident. And also, Rachna this is a comment more than a question. Yes, absolutely. Dogs running, I don't know. Yes.
Dogs, people, yeah. So basically, you have to keep reminding yourself that this happens.
Yeah, and so that's what, to remind everyone who's watching. I mean, if you're a biker, you know this. It's things like this happen to everyone. But when you are on two wheels, it's far more dangerous, because you can lose balance, and then the oncoming traffic can cause you a huge amount of damage. So if you lose your balance and fall, it's very, very dangerous. Obviously, on an Indian highway, nobody needs to tell you that. So that's why these things, which are closed shaves in a car, which you might forget about by the next stop, can become a really serious incident on a motorcycle. So that's why you have to be very, very careful. Last, I think the point you made right at the beginning, I just want to re-emphasize that while speed will increase arithmetically, the risk and the braking distance increases exponentially. So if you just remember that principle, is that if you're going at 50 kilometers an hour, then your chance of accident is, let's say, X. If you're going at 75, your chance of accident is not 1.5x, it's like 6x.
2.5 times.
Yeah.
At least 2.5 times more. And then if you're doing 80, then it's whatever, 8 times or 10 times more or whatever.
Can you, last question, I think this one is a mirthful question directed at Shane. Well, what do you mean, like an age cutoff for like older people or for younger people?
Younger people, I think she means, because in England they have this, it's called an A2 license. So until you're 25, you can only ride a bike which has an A2 restriction, which is up to 95 bhp or something like that. So there are ways of doing this. There should be restrictions. I'm very, very strongly in favor of that. Anyone below 25 should not be allowed on anything above 500 cc, no matter what. Or if not 500 cc, then at least some bhp, certain bhp, 60 bhp or whatever, 50 bhp, whatever. That would really help. Yes.
So here's the deal. I have a common friend who knows John Abram pretty well, right? And I know John's a very, very keen motorcyclist, and I'm going to try him to do some like road safety kind of
He might
Who
not
gives-
because he's contracted with Yamaha. No? He might or might not. I don't know.
No, but this is about road safety. So what I'm saying is that if let's co-develop those road safety kind of tips, and maybe we'll get John, because then that message will go out to a larger number of people, right? I mean, if John saying it and we distribute it on the internet, then hopefully a lot of young people will follow his advice. And so let's design some messaging, and I'll reach out to my friend and see if John's up to it. I think he's a nice guy. He might actually consider it. So might be an interesting thing. And I could reach out to Dhoni as well. So could be interesting. But let's design that. I think you obviously have so much experience. Maybe we get together with some of your friends who are kind of also expert riders and all that, and design some of these messages for short 30-second or 60-second videos, and just put them out there so people know what they're doing, and also other people who are on the streets driving cars on the roads and all that, kind of get the message that, hey, listen, this is a susceptible class of vehicle, and when you see a motorcycle, some of the things you can do to protect yourself not being involved in an accident, right, or whatever. Let's see if that works. Because I think it's certainly kind of become important to me to kind of get the message out there, and we as bikers we kind of enjoy the experience so much. It would be a pity if you have to give it up for these kind of considerations. At least if you're being very careful and you're being in situations where it's relatively, and we don't have time today to discuss dangerous riding conditions like rain and so on and so forth, but maybe that's for another podcast. All right, thank you everyone for watching, and everyone who will watch. Thanks, Shane, for sharing all your knowledge and experience and all that stuff. And I'll see you later. I'll see you on another podcast.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.